again, everyone. I just got the mail and I wanted to talk about this book. This is my all-time favorite, most highly recommended book for beginners. It's little. You can read it in about a day. This was my very first orchid book that I ever bought. I think it's only about $11 too. It's not expensive. I purchased it at a Home Depot or Lowe's, and I read it that day, and then I realized why I'd always killed my other orchids that I'd tried to grow. And after that, I didn't kill them as much, and I learned I could grow every other kind of plant that I tried to grow, I could grow after I read this book, because I understood more about plants. So, also, funny, okay, I got this used on Amazon for like $3. And there's an inscription on this first page, and somebody named Luana gave it to somebody as a gift with the exact same idea that I did, that this is the best book. And obviously, Luana's friend didn't read it because it's like brand new condition. That was the only sign that you knew that it was a used book, was this little inscription. So I'm guessing that Luana's friend didn't read the book, killed her orchids, and gave up on the hobby. But if she would have read the book, she would have been more successful at growing. So, my other copy, my original copy, is with my aunt, and I wanted to buy this for the video, and then if I have anybody in town that wants to borrow it, I can loan it to them. Now, this whole stack of books, this is my essential orchid books, but you do not need to have all of these. If you're beginning, you need to have the Orthos book. Oh, also, I guess there's a Orthos Complete Guide to Orchids, and I think it's a bigger book. I've not read that one, so I can't recommend it, but if it's anything like this one, then I would definitely say yes. So if anybody out there knows and has read both, leave a comment and I can figure it out. So, I love this one because it's got charts about light, charts about temperature. It's got a little section, it's got cultural problems, which are a big deal because that is most of our problems in our growing situations, because we do things wrong and then they get sick, and usually it's not just a disease, it's something that we did wrong. So the cultural problems are a big factor. There's also the bit on what's a hybrid, what's a species, what's a genus, and how those things are all written. And then in the back, it's got the little orchid gallery that has most commonly grown types of orchids, how to grow them, what their light requirements are, and stuff like that. So I love that one. The second one I would recommend for anybody from a beginner to an advanced person is to have the AOS Orchid Pests and Diseases book. If you don't know what a pest, if you can't identify the pest or the disease, you can't fight it correctly. So you need to have this. It is kind of confusing. I mean, not confusing, but it is really scientific, and the stuff in here, they use a lot of chemicals for things, and they have all this, but this is absolutely essential reading. It tells you how to sterilize things, how to control virus, how to fight off anything you're going to have. So this is an absolute must. I don't remember how much this was, but a lot of these things you can get used on Amazon if you look for them. So yeah, I don't know how much it was. I don't know. You can use this one. Was $2. I think the shipping was $5, but this, if you're a really sciencey kind of person, or if you just love reading and you're one of those kind of people that's just thirsts for knowledge, you could go ahead and make this your first orchid book. However, this book is I think it's from 1990, so a lot of the information in it is about chemicals and stuff is out of date. But most of the other things, and some of the names have been changed too, so most of the photos are black and white, but it's also got sections on genetics and breeding, how orchid seeds are done, flasking, let's see what else. It's got information even about importing orchids from out of the country, which I know beginners aren't going to do, but if you're an advanced grower and you're getting into those kinds of things, this has information about that, which is fantastic, because I'm going to be importing some orchids this summer from Brazil, I think. So, another great one I would say you should have is this one. My first 3 orchid books consisted of this one, Orthos, and the Daisies book, and I got through, I did really well. This was the 3rd orchid book I ever bought, I think, and it's fantastic. It also, which I love about it, is it has a whole entire list of every intergeneric genera name. Like if you cross, let's see, here, Fialara, abbreviation is FIA, that is Bretonia, Cattleya, Laelia, and Laeliopsis. So it's got this whole entire, there's a couple pages of this, I think, which is so cool. Love that. The disease section, I think, could be a little better, but it talks about water quality, which is super important. I don't know if Orthos talks about that, but they do talk about salt buildup in your pots. So this is fantastic. So if you can only have 3, do this one, Orthos, and Orchid Pests and Diseases. If you're growing under lights, this is an essential book I think you should definitely have. Also, it's a little bit old. It doesn't talk about LEDs, so it's a little bit out of date. I think Charles is working on another book. I just talked to him a couple days ago. I sent him an email with some questions about light spectra and stuff, but this is a wonderful book, and he's just starting to experiment with T5s, so he is working on it. It's got quality of light with the different kinds of grow bulbs, which I think is amazing. I think if you're growing under fluorescence, then the grow bulbs are definitely something you should use instead of just cool whites and warm whites. He's got stuff like light movers, tells you about that, tells you about HIDs, culture basics are in here, and then at the back, he's got a whole little section of plants that would grow well under lights, and he does list fragrances to like the things that are fragrant. He does mark that, so, or make a note of that, I should say. So I like that one, and I like that he mentions fragrances. Not all of them do, which brings me on to this one. If you like fragrant orchids, get this one. Okay, Fragrant Orchids. The next book, if you're into fragrance, and that's one of the reasons why you want to grow orchids, Fragrant Orchids by Stephen Frauwein. This is a fantastic book. He's got all these charts in here. He's got different charts that are orchids by ease of culture. There's a chart for, for light requirements, temperature requirements, intensity of fragrance, bloom season, and when he's got little descriptions, he's got some pictures and descriptions of some really popular ones, and he'll tell you whether it should be grown or can be grown under lights, greenhouse, or in a windowsill. So this is fantastic. Some of the fragrance descriptions are a little bit off, but everybody perceives fragrances differently, so that's just how it is. If you're into Cattleyas, this is a fantastic book. This has a lot of information about nomenclature, and it has both the bifoliate and the unifoliate species. So it's not just the large flowered Cattleyas, and it even has some of the ones that we don't see very often anymore, like Uricolor. There's only 3 pages on culture. Hang on, I took notes. There's only 3 pages on culture, but some of the information on the culture is stuff that I've never read before, which is awesome because I've read a lot of orchid books. And there are over 50 species listed in here. So it does give you a bit of cultural information on each species, but it's not a ton. Like, it'll tell you where it grows and what temperatures and stuff that it needs, so you can figure out how how to grow it from here if you know how to do that, but it doesn't spell it out exactly like this one does. This one, however, only has the large flowered Cattleyas like these, the ones with one leaf on the pseudobulb. This has history in it. It's got a bunch of information about the old hybrids, because the Chadwicks have been growing orchids since the corsage days. Also, what I love about this book is it's got a growth cycle chart in here, which tells you, let's see, it tells you when the orchid will root and rest and bloom in its growth cycle. Like, some of them will bloom on immature growths, and those usually root on immature growths as well. And other ones, here we go. I write a lot of stuff in my books. So it'll tell you the species, the approximate length of the rest period in months, and then the approximate flowering of season in the United States. And then on those that root before flowering or root after flowering, depends on the whether they bloom or rest before flowering. So this is a fantastic book. There's info about hybrids, species. There is a lot of cultural information in here. So if you want to grow Cattleyas, this is a fantastic book. It's sort of like the Cattleya Bible. There's also another one that I don't have. It's Courtney Hackney's book, and I don't know what it's called, but it comes highly recommended from a big Cattleya grower, I'll say. And then if you love pretty pictures and want to get acquainted with the pronunciation of species, or genera, actually, it doesn't have species pronunciations, and want to learn all the technical terms like labellum and the column and what all the scientific terms that describe the plants are, this is fantastic. And also, if you want to learn, like, you can just go through here and see stuff you like and then be like, ooh, can I grow that? No, it wants cold conditions. Can't do that one. So, but this is fantastic. It, of course, cannot list every species that there is, but it does have a ton. And as you can see, I use this quite a bit, and it is starting to fall apart. So there is a new version of this that I don't have yet. I think it's got more in there, and haven't seen it, but I want to get it because I think this is a fantastic book. And I have actually read this whole entire thing from front to back, every word of it. Can get a little tedious sometimes, but I did want to see, I wanted to be familiar with everything, so, or as much as I could. So, that is all the books that I highly recommend. Ones that are like okay but are not my favorites are this. This one has a lot of pretty pictures in it. This is Growing Orchids by Brian and Wilma Rittershausen.